noises. Okay, so what we're going to do in the next few weeks leading up to Pesach, we're going to explore those female figures. Some of them are very surprisingly, maybe unlikely heroes of a story, or not expected. If you've never read the story before, and please try to imagine as if you've never heard the story before, it can be very surprising. Okay, so in part one, we are going to explore the identity of the midwives, the Me'aldot. Who were they, and what exactly did they do to defy Pharaoh? And why in the first place does he call on them? Okay, his actions seem a little bit weird. So let's look at the text itself, the text from the Torah. And I'm going to translate to English as we go. So from Pharaoh's point of view, he sees Bnei Israel, and they're like seriously multiplying, okay? The language that is used here in the Torah, כן ירבה וכן יפרוץ ויקוצו מפני בני ישראל ועלה מן הארץ, it's language that makes Bnei Israel sounds like some sort of pest or animal, something that is creeping up and ravaging the land and just like spreading everywhere like insects, like locusts, incidentally. And this is a point of view of Pharaoh and the Egyptians, okay? This is how they view Bnei Israel. Now, from the point of view of Bnei Israel, they are still a family at this point. Through the book of Exodus, we will see them transition from family to a nation, okay? And when I start teaching this book with my students at NYHS, I'm asking them to keep in mind all the time, why do Bnei Israel have to go through slavery and the desert in order to become the nation that Hashem wants them to be, in order to carry out their part in the world, to do this tikkun olam, to do justice in the world? Why do they have to start from slavery? That's a question we're going to keep in mind, okay? The stages of enslavement did not happen overnight, according to some of the commentaries. According to other commentaries, they did happen in a fast way. But basically, if we follow the steps of enslavement, first, he taxes them. He tells them, you've been like freeloaders living here in Goshen, a very fertile land, and I want you to pay taxes. There is a midrash in Shmot Rabbah that said that Pharaoh called on all the citizens of Egypt to build bricks as a sort of like a give to your community day, and took count of what is the quota of bricks that Bnei Israel are making. He himself, according to that midrash, according to that commentary, participated in the labor, so to fool them into thinking that this was, one day everyone participates things. Again, this is a midrash, which is not the text itself. And every midrash is a commentary. It's not necessarily historically accurate. It comes to bring them meaning. I see there's a question in the chat. I'm gonna take questions towards the end of the shiur, if that's okay with you. Okay. All right. The next step is that Pharaoh tells Bnei Israel, now I know how many bricks you can make, what's a quota of bricks you can make, and you're going to have to do it for me every day. ויעבדו מצרים את בני ישראל בפרך. What is a parech? There's different commentaries about that word. Is it difficult labor? Is it labor that they're not suited for? Is it labor that's not for the sake of labor, but for the sake of humiliating them? Some comment, there's a midrash from the Gemara in which Rav and Shmuel are debating about the names Pitom and Ramses, and they're saying that those names are metaphors for either a work that is done, labor that is done, that is destroyed at the end of every day. For example, one way to view it is that they built those buildings, and at the end of every day, the Egyptians will destroy what they built. So according to that interpretation, this is psychological torture rather than not just physical. And if you ever heard survivors of Siberian labor camps or of Nazi concentration camps, a lot of them talk about having to do labor which would be destroyed at the end of the day, because it's meant to break you mentally, not just physically. So according to that interpretation, the enslavement of Bnei Israel wasn't necessarily for economical purposes, although Egypt had slaves from many other nations as well. Okay, archaeological evidence. There's a debate whether the location of Egypt in the Exodus is the Egypt that, the Great Pyramid that we know today, or was it lower down southern in the Nile? So it's not necessarily, when you imagine Egypt, it's not necessarily, the pyramids. It might look a little bit different, but in the capacity of time that I have, I can't go into all the archaeological reference. I want to get to the women. They interest me. Okay. וימררו את חייהם בעבודה קשה, בחומר ובלבנים, ובכל עבודה בשדה, so there's brickwork, there's building work, there's field work, את כל עבודתם אשר עבדו בהם הפרך. And yet, בני Israel are still growing, right? כאשר יענו אותו, if we look the pasuk just before that, כאשר יענו אותו, כן ירבה וכן יפרוץ. The more Bnei Israel suffering, they're still growing and multiplying. So what's the next step? The next step, Vayomer Melech Mitzrayim. So the Pharaoh of Egypt says, Lam Yeldot Ha'ivriot, to the midwives of the Hebrews or to the Hebrew midwives? So there's two possibilities here, and we're going to explore them. Asher Shem Ha'achat Shifra, one of them is named Shifra, the Shem Hashanit Pua, and the other one is named Pua. So we have several questions. Okay. Why is Pharaoh giving a command to midwives in the first place, right? If his goal is to annihilate, to kill all of Bnei Israel, just take your soldiers and kill them, kill everyone, why do you have to do this whole convoluted thing with midwives and the babies and everything? So that's one question we have. One question about Pharaoh's strategy here. The second question we have is a grammatical question. Are they the midwives for the Hebrews, or are they the Hebrew midwives? So you can understand there's two meanings, and we come to identify them. We want to ask, wait, are those midwives Egyptian, or maybe from a different nationality, or are they Hebrew? Are they from Bnei Israel? If they're from Bnei Israel, why in the world would they kill Hebrew babies? Right? But then there's another question. Only two midwives for all the population of Bnei Israel? I don't know, if labor and delivery for words for just a small city usually have several midwives. I mean, if they were multiplying so quickly, they would have more than two midwives. 3, Shifra and Pu'ah. Are those actual names, or are those nicknames for them? Yes, some commentaries you might have heard, you probably heard, identify them as Yocheved and Miriam, but there's more commentaries that give us other possibilities as to their identity. So we're going to explore those commentaries. All right, so who are they? And what exactly does he want them to do? Vayomer Melech HaMitzrayim Lemildot Evriyot, he says to the Hebrew midwives / the midwives who are Hebrews, Asher Shem Ha'achat Shifra, one of them is Shifra, and the other is named Pu'ah. Vayomer, and he says, B'yeldechen et ha'ivriot, when you go to assist in the birth of the Hebrews, uraiten, and you shall see on the ovnaim, on the birth stool. What is that birth stool? So back in those days, most women would give birth in a more sitting upright position, and there would be like this sort of like seat. It kind of like looks like our toilet seat where there's like a seat, but there's a gap in the middle. And under that, there's like another layer. So the woman would give birth sitting upright. So the baby would go into the hands of the midwife if she's there. So the midwife would see the baby before the mother herself saw the baby. As we can see in Sefer Bereshit, in Genesis, when Rachel gives birth to Binyamin, the midwife tells her, keep on going. It's a boy. You have a healthy boy. She actually died in labor, unfortunately. But we can see from that pasuk that the midwife would actually be the one to see the baby first. So what does he want the midwives to do? He says, as soon as that baby comes out, as soon as the baby is born, before the mother sees it, you'll check the baby. If it's a boy, kill him. And if it's a girl, let her live. Now, what does he want them to do? He wants them to kill that baby boy and just tell the mother the baby was born dead. It's a stillborn. He doesn't want the mothers to know, but the midwives are killing the babies. And if it's a girl, she should live. Now, what's his point? His point probably is that and that comes to answer the first question of why does he just like publicly kill all the Hebrews, is that at this point, he is concerned that if everyone knows what he's doing, there's going to be a public outcry from the Hebrews, maybe they'll rebel, maybe from the Egyptians and other nationalities as well. His steps, what he's doing here is that he is degrading the Hebrews as people step by step. So if any of you have seen propaganda movies from Nazi Germany about how they portray Jews, they would, for example, intersect pictures of like Jewish people with pictures of like rats climbing up from sewers. So the first thing, if you want to create a genocide, is to make those people seem like not people. So at this point, he hasn't degraded them enough to be confident that if he starts killing them or killing their babies outright in the streets, people won't revolt. So he wants those midwives to do it silently, without even the mother of the baby knowing that they're killing the baby. Eventually, this will catch up, right? Eventually, this will catch up with him. I mean, people will start doing the math that all those baby boys are being born dead. There's something here. But he's trying to do it over a period of time until it's noticeable. By the time that happens, Bnei Israel will be degraded so much that he can just overcome them. So that's an interpretation that we can give to his strategy. ותראינה המילדות את אלוקים. This word תראינה is really interesting to me for several reasons. ותראינה is related to the root ירא, יוד ריש א', which could be interpreted as being in awe of something. Many people like saying your eyes fear. It's not necessarily just fear. Yira'ah is like also yira'at kavod, to be in awe of something or someone. It also could relate to lira'ot, to see. So there's a relationship in the Torah between different Hebrew words and their different roots and the similarities between them. There's also something that's really interesting to me that's happening here in terms of how this word is written. Usually the word tira'ena should appear with the hey at the end of the word. Here there's a missing hey. Now when we have extra letters or missing letters in the Torah, it usually indicates something, it highlights something for us to notice. So when there's a missing hey, we need to ask ourselves, what does the letter Hey represent? But we go back to Sefer Bereshit, and we see that Avram and Sarai get this letter Hey at some point in their journey. And the letter Hey has something to do with a relationship with that which we call God, the relationship with the divine. So there's a missing Hey here in the word about the Meldot. And to me, this screams, it seems that God is absent, is missing from the story. The people are suffering, they're enslaved, and it seems like God has checked out. And this missing Hey appears not once, we'll see it again, in reference to the midwives. So who is enacting the will of God here? The midwives are going to enact the will of God. It seems like God is missing, but the midwives are those who are going to act justice and the will of God in this story. So they're alone, right? They're alone, they're working alone. They get this command from the king. No one would know what they did if they listened to the king, and yet they have this awe of God. They see God. We're not necessarily talking about prophetic vision. We're saying that their motivation is a motivation of doing the right thing, of doing justice, and what Hashem would want them to do. Their motivation is acting out of mercy and justice. Okay, so that's what missing Hey there. And we're going to see that missing Hey again. ותראינה מילדות את האלוהים, ולא עשו, they did not do, כאשר דיבר אליהן מלך מצרים. They did not do what the king of Egypt say to them to do. ותחיינה את הילדים. There is that missing Hey again, ותחיינה. There's an active verb here. Not only did they not kill them, but they actively kept them alive. It's also interesting to me that Pharaoh is called here Melech Mitzrayim. We keep referring to him as the king of Egypt, the king of Egypt, the king of Egypt, which kind of brings to mind the thought that maybe he thinks he's a god. And according to Egyptian culture and religion, the Pharaoh was a god in his eyes and in the eyes of his nation. But in the big scheme of things, he's only the king of Egypt. He's only Melech Basar Vadam, a flesh and blood king. So he thinks he can do anything, but actually he too is a human being. Okay. ויקרא מלך מצרים למילדות, he calls them back after a period of time, ויאמר להן, he tells them, מדוע עשיתן הדבר הזה ותחיינה את הילדים? Why did you do this thing and actively keep those children alive? ותאמרנה המילדות, so again, missing Hey, they're the voice of God, but he doesn't know that they're the voice of God. As far as he's concerned, he thinks they're under his own thumb, right? But they're not. ותאמרנה מילדות אל פרעה, so they say this, כי לא כנשים המצריות העבריות, Hebrew women are not like the Egyptians, כי חיות הנה בטרם תבוא אליהן המיילדת וילדו. Let's translate this pasuk in several different ways. So the simple translation would be that they give birth so fast, like a chayot, like animals, even before the midwives come. You know, we can't do what you said to do, Paro, because by the time we get there, the baby's already born. All right? The other way to view this pasuk, a more internal meaning, is ki chayot hena, they're alive, which is really, really interesting because it's starting to indicate to us the juxtaposition of birth and death in this chapter. This chapter is full of slavery, of death, of torture, of persecution. And in the midst of all this, we have this birth imagery. And if you look at the story of Exodus and you continue with this birth imagery, and the Midrash on Shir HaShirim does just that. In the Haggadah, we read a portion of it, in your blood you shall live. and where Bnei Israel are compared to a woman in labor, who is in the pains of labor, and there's blood, but through that labor, through that pain, a baby is born. And the baby here is the nation, Am Yisrael. Now, if you go into the imagery of Kriyat Yam Suf, of breaking apart the sea, that's a birth imagery right there. You know, they're being pushed out of Egypt. They're going through this very narrow strait of land, and they're on the water breaks apart, and then they go in through this water. Oh, come on, that's like totally a birth metaphor, right? Then they're in the desert, and they're still weak, they're still like psychologically, in trauma from everything, and Hashem gives them this man, this nutrition. It's like white colored, and it gives them everything they need, and they only get what they need. And if that's not a breastfeeding metaphor, then I don't know what is. It is totally a breastfeeding metaphor. So yeah, Irina. So there's a lot of imagery of motherhood and birth in the birth of Am Yisrael. So keep this in mind as we read the story. Okay. And the interesting thing is that we don't just have biological motherhood, we also have spiritual motherhood, adoptive motherhood, motherhood by choice, someone who chooses the baby, and someone who takes care of that baby and makes him her own. And that's also a birth metaphor, an adoption birth metaphor, which I love. Okay. I'm going to skip ahead to the commentaries, and we have 4 minutes left. We're going to start it today. We're going to continue into it next week. So who were they? Sforno. Sforno says, Sforno is an Italian Jewish commentator from the medieval ages, possibly a convert, which is interesting. למילדות העבריות, לאותן שהיו בעיר מצרים, the midwives who were in that city, in the capital city of Egypt, כי אמנם בעם רב כל כך רב, such a big nation, לא היו שתי מילות בלבד. So come on, okay. So definitely there were more than 2 midwives, but he's specifically calling out those 2 midwives, those 2 head midwives in the capital of Egypt. So this command starts in one place specifically. All right, next. Let's see. PDF. Please take me to the next page, PDF. Freeze screen, freeze screen. Oh, there you go. Great. Sorry for a delay. Okay. Midrash Shmot Rabbah. This is a text from the Mishnah/Talmudic era. ויהי כי יראו מן הילדות את אלוהים ויעש להם בתים. Rav veLevi. So there's 2 opinions about what does he made houses for them. One said, Batei Kehuna Batei Leviah. God made them be made from their line, the dynasty of the Kohanim, the priests, and the Levim. The Chadamar, and the other one says, God made from their dynasty houses of kings. What do I mean by that? They say, Batei Kehuna veLeviah, so Kohanim and Levim from Moshe and Aaron. Batei Malchut from Miriam, Lefi sheDavid ba Miriam. So King David comes from Miriam's lineage, and the Kohanim and the Levim come from Yocheved lineage. So the Midrash here identifies the Meildot as Yocheved and Miriam. And the gifts that they get from Hashem as a result of their actions here is that both the line of Kohanim and Levim come from them, and the line of the kings of Beit David, of the house of David, comes from them. So this source identifies them as Miriam and Yocheved. And why? And why is Miriam also called Efrat? Because Efrat means fertility, and Bnei Israel were able to continue being fertile and having children through her actions. But we're going to see a later source about Miriam that this could be more than just helping give birth to babies. The fact that Bnei Israel were able to multiply because of her action. Okay. Barbanel, so medieval Spanish commentator, says, "Em lo hayu ivriot." There's no way that they would be Hebrew. Ki ech yiftach libo, how could Paro trust his heart b'nashim ivriot shemitu valdehem? He says, come on, Paro wouldn't tell Hebrew women to kill Hebrew babies. But aval hayu nashim mitzriot miyaldot et ivriot. They were Egyptian women who were midwives assisting the Hebrews. רצה לומר, עוזרות אותם ללדת. They helped them give birth. Okay? Midrash Tidsha, a different midrash, says, lists 23 righteous among the nations, women who are righteous. And they list women who are not Jewish, but who were tzadikot, who were righteous. Some of them had converted. Hagar, Osnat is Yosef's wife, Zipporah, Moshe's wife, Shifra and Pua, the two midwives, Bat Paro, we'll see her, Rachav, Ruth, and Yael. Okay, so this midrash gives us a list of women who were not Jewish and who were righteous. And this midrash lists the two midwives among them. So, those midwives, very possibly, according to some commentaries, were not Jewish. They were righteous amongst the nations. Just like Irena Sandler, they say, who saved hundreds of Jewish children during the Holocaust, they were non-Jewish. Which means that not everyone in the Egyptian nations wanted to kill the Jewish people. There were some people who were helping them, supporting them. We're going to continue next week to discuss more about Miriam and Yocheved and Bat Paro. But before that, I'd like to unmute everyone and ask you if you have any questions. So there we go. Unmute all. Questions?
I don't have any questions.
It was great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So you're welcome to download the source sheets and look over them, and we will continue next week. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tali, did this start at 11?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I thought it started at 11:30.
Well, the good news is that I recorded it. So
Okay.
I'm going to
Send it to me.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the recording online. I'm going to post it. I'm going to ask Marilyn to post it on the Yeshiva's Facebook page, as well as on
How do you get off of the here, baby?
What? What's the question?
How do we end the meeting so we can go do other things?
Well, I'm going to end it now, but so I can end it for you, okay?
Thank you.
Thank
It
you.
was great.
Thank
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.